All right, where did we start last time on Dungeons and Dragons? What was
Oh,
the beginning of session?
that's a great question. We
That is a
were
great question.
God got a
The birth.
big fat
The birth.
cold.
What?
God got a big fat cold. And now God can't talk.
Oh, okay. I was so confused.
so was
We were
I.
in a room. We were in a room with a just born baby.
Yep. And we're
That's
trying to
what
figure
it's-
out how if the rose was good or bad.
The
We could
child
not
was
tell.
female.
Mhm.
Um, I have here that Griffle places herself between the wraith and the bed and brandishes her axes.
Yes, I did that.
Well, the baby was like sick. She was jaundiced. She was feverish. And so Griffle put a petal from the rose on the baby, and it was like she absorbed it. And her crown on her arm glowed as she absorbed it. But we noticed that the petals were inscribed with like a ritual in Elven, and we weren't sure if what was happening was like a good thing or a bad thing.
So the shaman said that there's a spirit inside the child that is trying to seek a connection, and our choices were to convince the spirit to not attempt to make the connection or acquire a spirit that would be compatible with the one inside.
Yeah, and so inside the child was the lyric, and we
Hmm.
could speak with it. Um, and we needed to convince there was like an Oddlier that was could bind to it, I think, and that would sort of like calm things down, or we could try to convince the lyric to to wait a while until the child was older. And we thought that the storm had something to do with why this was happening. And for some reason, we realized that Ishia Shayak could potentially help. I guess because the shaman recommended that.
Hmm. So Gary is saying that there was something unusual about the process because there was a hitch.
Yeah.
I thought the hitch was that it was seeking an external spirit much earlier than normal in a person's
Yeah.
lifetime.
Like usually it was a puberty thing, and this is a little baby.
Okay.
Yeah. So then Ishia Shayak came, and she recognized the lyric inside of the baby as being like super powerful and old.
She recommended going to the Dawnlands
Yeah.
to
To find
find.
the right Oddlier, I think.
Um, Ishiashaya really, really does not like the kind of binding that's in the petals of the flower.
Mhm.
Yeah, she said she couldn't find a spirit here in the Shade Lands. She called it. She told us where we could go that qualified as the Dawnlands, and it was like the Fey part. Great.
Yeah. The Hall of the Horned King, Hope's Light. Uh, yeah, all of the elven kind of plains on the map.
Yeah, Ishiashaya. So one tried to talk to Ishiashaya, and it did not go well. Like there was like psionic problems, right?
Oh, she was
Back
just
or
like
something.
way too powerful for me. Yeah.
And she said that you probably would not survive in the Dawnlands if you went, unless you were much stronger.
Hmm. I don't remember.
I only remember her saying, "Are you stronger than your other? Because if you don't, you will have problems there. Because if you aren't, you won't have problems there."
Mm,
I don't remember the why.
that's potentially the thing inside of me. Oh,
Oh.
but we were gonna try, and we like sorted out the parents, and then the shaman offered to try to commune with the Lyric while we were waiting. I think because we were calling the ship.
hmm
And then while that happened, things went down, and the child started glowing and got very hot, and Baneslayer started glowing. She,
Oh, she lost her hand. Or almost lost her hand. It had like was like all necrotic and stuff.
mhm. Yeah, and then we heard Tyserial say that the Bane approaches, and Tyserial like saved the shaman.
So after the shaman is released, we decide to go in because one has this hypothesis that the Lairk is some kind of primordial god, and the adversary has wrapped itself around the Lairk. The shaman, I think, said that she was unable to communicate with the Lairk, but there was something else there.
Yeah. And then we also asked Hatterai to look at the petals, and he hypothesized that if we could get the energy from the petals, that would actually help the Lyric, but then like the ritual that's on it is binding the Lyric. So there's like a lot of stuff going on here. And he would need more time to try to figure that out.
The shaman does say that she thinks she can open a one-way spirit portal.
Hmm. Oh, yep. We sent the Lord of the House off to go
Yeah, he
get
had
ready
wanted
to
to
leave.
help, but we told him it would be best for him to prepare for the departure in case that was needed.
Hmm.
rather than dying.
Yep.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So we went in, and we were on this map, this like forest floating in space. And we met Dalseth and Eladrin, who basically said, like, my lady is busy and asks us to leave. And then he said he was going to attack us after we said we were here to free his lady. Um,
He asked
he
for
asked
our
for our
names.
names. Yeah.
Yes. He asked for each of our names.
Yep.
And most of us told the truth.
Hmm. And then he tried to invoke Philly's name, but was rebuffed by Baneslayer.
What was the catchphrase? Did I miss some? Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
literally a catchphrase.
Yes, he was surprisingly weak.
We did focus fire pretty hard this
That's
fight.
weak. That is weak with quotes.
Yes.
I think if he'd gotten actually a turn of activity, it would have been worse.
Yes.
There were a bunch of like tree monsters that looked like normal
Mhm.
trees and then turned out weren't.
Yeah. Mhm. And so we're just about to talk to this ghost in the middle of this bridge.
As long as it doesn't last the land speed of a swallow.
North African or European?
Exactly.
Asking the important questions.
And unladen.
Yep. Um, I think that's it. I mean, mostly just I feel like this baby has brought on a lot of questions about how, like, what is happening.
One
Hopefully
thing
we'll
that
get some
I took
answers.
note of,
Mhm.
or I guess Filibuster took note of, is I focused a lot on the specter. What's the term for that? The little tiefling.
The
thing,
Wraith?
The Wraith.
The wraith. Thank you. And she was like, "I don't know what's gonna happen. This is pretty interesting. Nothing interesting ever happens." I thought that was fun.
Mhm.
I think I gave her a message also.
Yes, the wraith of three trees. She also showed a sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Like she wanted for something more out of life, but she didn't feel like she could get it. because of a sense of duty.
All right, all right. Assign PowerPoint. PP.
Oh, is that what the PPP is? The PPP loan? Silent
Mhm.
PowerPoint?
Yep.
My macros aren't showing for me. I'm just gonna restart the game.
Um, does she appear non-threatening?
With Gary typing, it feels like those really old like text adventure games where you're in a cave. What do you do?
Go north. Yeah, I think I would slowly approach.
So, have you guys not seen this specter before?
No.
Oh, okay.
I will say that each of your characters have, well, the ones of you guys that were there before, have this weird sort of eerie feeling of almost deja vu, where
Okay.
standing here reminds you of the other specter on the other bridge.
Okay. And so
So,
that was the specter in Celestia that was guarding the bridge that eventually turned into Tyserial.
yes.
Yes.
So you approach.
Yeah.
She doesn't react. And kind of like on the map, she's floating off to one side of the bridge. She's not in the middle of it.
Okay. I think I would call out to her. Are you the Lyric?
She says, I am a Lyric. I am the Lyric. One of 3, of 6, of 7. And if I need to type anything because it's hard to hear me, then I can switch to typing.
No, I think it's easy to hear you. Hmm. I guess I would ask, were you imprisoned by Dalseth?
So, 1 second. So when you go to say Dalsa's name, you get this painful pressure on your mind. 19 versus will doesn't hit you, correct?
Oh. Nope.
Okay. So you get this painful pressure, like almost like an attack, but it doesn't feel like it was probably from the specter, but it's not like something she aimed at you, something that felt like reactive.
Mm.
She says, "How dare you say that name in my presence?" And you feel the area kind of heat up very drastically.
Mm. I will sort of like put my hands out like, oh, I'm so sorry. I meant no disrespect. We did not know he attacked us and we killed him.
One second. So you say we've killed him. Could you give me some sort of social check associated with it? Like whatever you want. Like diplomacy probably is default, but you can use something else if you want.
Yeah, I think diplomacy makes sense.
Nice. So she says, "No, I see him in my mind's. I see him in our mind's eyes. Even if our eyes are burned out, he still lives."
Mm.
Right, and try the reading thing. My notes are actually, I'm going to switch this around because my notes are kind of ridiculous. So let's try with, since you're the one asking questions, I'm going to have Morin read this section.
The already translucent image of the woman fades and blends into the swirling mists. You see confusion, anger, and pain fight for dominance on her face.
And I'm going to kind of pass the thing along if someone else wants to speak. So Sil, or if someone else has something they want to say, obviously you guys can take a turn. I just want it to not always be one.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think I'll pass.
Drock.
I'll ask. We're here to protect a child. How can we assist in doing that?
Why would you ask me about a child? I am never connected with one. Not never.
This area we're in is somehow connected to the child. We entered through a link with the child.
She shakes her head. No, I would never bring a child here. They would cramp my style.
Didn't Ishishaya, when we pointed to the child, either like not see her or say that it was super, super old?
Mhm. Yeah, she like couldn't see the child. She just saw the lyric.
Yeah, you guys are right. I don't know what to ask that. I will look at the party confused and just kind of shrug for now.
Morin.
If you say that he still lives, who have you been bound here, and who did we just fight?
She doesn't respond, but you can see that there's a look of searching confusion on her face. She doesn't really seem to understand what it is you're talking about. There's a disconnect in the spirit that maybe it doesn't understand who you are or what's going on, and you're talking about things that it just doesn't know or remember.
Um, can I ask the guardian angel? Did you see what transpired here? Can you offer any insight into what just happened?
Oh, the guardian angel is my power.
Oh, that's not an NPC.
That's not
It's
NPC.
Never
Sort of
mind.
inside of his magical sword. You could tap on that sword.
I guess I'll ask the specter. Why are you here?
Give me, again, some sort of social check. Diplomacy is by default. If you can justify something else, go ahead.
Uh, one sec. Wrong tab. Okay. Yeah, diplomacy works.
Diplomatic today.
Ooh.
Nice. She says, I'm here because this is my home, my sanctum, or close to it. I'm surprised the guards let you in so far, but maybe this has to do with the trouble at the gates? One. Kaylee,
Oh, sorry. You want me to read the whole thing?
just the non-quotes part.
Okay. Over the party, she seems to accept the presence of one, Syl, Drock, Philly, and Griffle each in turn. She takes a little longer to nod at Philly, but when she gets to Morin, you can see the wheels turning, but she can't figure him out.
Are you aiding them in their tasks, Echo?
These, and I gesture at the party.
She nods.
I nod in return. I am.
Then what does their lord wish of me?
So I'll turn to filibuster and say, what does Tyserial want with her?
Question. I assume this is out loud, right?
Yeah, that was to Philly. What does Tyserial want with her?
So when you say that, Spectre
Yeah.
responds, and she goes, "Oh, so we're dead naming now? Rude?
Who says that?
Zactherio." This is the Spectre. So she says, "Oh, we're dead naming now? Rude? Zactherio would murder you and skin you alive, and if you were friends, he would do it in that order."
What?
Wait, did she say Tyserial back? Oh, what the heck? It didn't. No, she didn't say the exact same thing.
Kylie.
She looks offended, but also more animated than she once was. As she's engaging in the conversation more, you see more color and her body is less translucent.
I'm going to ignore Morin, uh, Morin's question, and say, what do you know of the Baneslayer?
He's terribly boring, terrible at parties.
Hmm. Yeah, he doesn't seem to be very creative. And what of the Baneslayer's weapon?
She kind of cocks her head slightly to the side. You say as two different things. It is he, and they are she.
I may also be speaking of myself. And I like hold up the staff thing, my weapon.
All right, give me some sort of. But for this, the default would be religion. But if you want to do something else, she's gonna basically do the thing where like you extend your sense to someone. She's doing that to you, and you can sense that she's trying to sort of scan you. Yes. So what are you doing to sort of present yourself as who you are? Religion is default. You could use something else if you.
I'll do religion. It seems appropriate. Oh yeah. Good start.
So you're standing there, and everybody else can see the weapon glow in his hands, but Philly is dark, like black, and there's this shadow that crawls over his body. And then after a second, it passes the shining, the darkness, and the specter shakes her head. No, you're something else. I don't like it. Don't know what it is. You can see her
That's not
withdraw
very
a little
nice.
bit.
I've had better days.
So, Phil, if you wanted to say something else, you could. Otherwise, I'm going to give Griffel a chance to speak.
No, please pass.
Griffel.
Yes. A spirit lady. Apologies for any rudeness on my behalf. I don't know how to speak to one such as you, but are you. How old are you?
So she gives a kind of musical laughter. A question asked like a mortal, so I'll answer it like one. I was 20 when I became she and have been so for, 150, 200 years, something like that. I've a little bit lost track. Some of the parties got really wild.
Are you. Did you used to be human then? Or. Mortal, sorry, is what I meant to say. Did you used to be mortal, or have you always been a spirit inside a baby? Just asking for a friend.
Do you want to give me some sort of associated?
Sure. No diplomacy. What are we?
Everything else. 3.
Everything else plus 3, yeah.
So that's actually. You guys are 6, right?
Yeah.
So she laughs a little bit and says, I guess it doesn't matter too much. I've told enough people the story over the years. I was born Goliath, one of the dolls in the dollhouse of Svegetek. But I've been. And then there's a blankness. She said something, but it was gone. For a long time.
I see. And do you know what it is that happened to you to cause this?
The
Did you
specter.
choose it?
To cause what? I'm almost ready. The time is short. I cause what?
You are inside the mind or the spirit, or you're connected somehow with a human child. And I have sworn to myself that I will keep that child alive no matter what. And it seems the child is dying and we do not know how to stop it.
No. No, I'm at home. I've come home to prepare. Mother calls me. Mother needs me, and I'm afraid to go. Afraid to answer the call. I'm still so young. I don't want this responsibility. I don't want to do, but I need to. It's an oath. I'll go. I need to prepare first. Yes, need to prepare.
Prepare what? Wait.
So you can see as you're talking to her, like the lines around her face, the colors in her body are getting more realistic looking. They look more like a person and less like the spirit. To the point where she's about half and half right now, about half spirit, half person.
When you say person, does she look like a Goliath?
She looks like a vaguely elven human. She doesn't
Okay.
really look Goliath.
Okay.
Oh, I don't like this. I really, really don't like this.
Gary, is that fog still covering the island?
Yes.
Uh, how I'm more comfortable with names. Uh, is is there something you would prefer to be called?
She, you could tell, like, by her body language, she was sort of retreating from the conversation a little bit, like worried or anxious. And then when you ask that, she cocks her head to one side. You are mortal, and you see me. How could you not know me? I am the unspoiled queen of.
Another blank.
Sorry, I'm putting into the channel.
Okay.
Just a lot of screens.
She poses in midair, her chin lifted up, arms on her hips, and then shakes her head and fades away slightly.
Now, to be frank with you, because I'm mortal, there are words I cannot hear. There are two words in that sentence I could not hear.
Do you want to give me some sort of insight? Would be default. You're trying to kind of penetrate this confusion that she has. Insight would be default. If you want to do something else, you can do something else.
Default works for me. Much better. I think that worked.
Ah, you see with mortal eyes. The veil of summer is thick here, so close to. If you are lost, the others can help you find your way. Oak and maple, elm and willow. Follow the paths and go far from here, mortals. I feel something is wrong in the world.
Ariel, her face grows more brightly colored, more distinct. Her shadowed eyes glow with a bright green inner light.
That card's banned. So, is that what she looks like now?
Yes.
Is this a face we've seen before?
No. Griffel, did you have anything else to say, or did you want to go to Syl?
I'm good to go to Syl.
Syl, anything you want to say?
Is there anyone else here with you?
That's a good question.
Yes. My guardians, my people that come to me, you can see her face kind of get pained all of a sudden. The people I trusted. I should not have trust. No. Grandmother says, trust is death, and what is death to the immortal?
Were you betrayed?
You see her kind of twist her face. Dalsath, the lying snake, the stupid prick. He hurt me. He hurt his queen.
Queen.
If we didn't defeat Dalseth, what was the image that we just eliminated?
No, he's. You could not have defeated him. He's with me. I can feel. No. I'm not weak. I am strong. I am eternal. I will not fail. You can see her shaking her head side to side, like she's trying to shake out a bad thought.
I think we'd like to help you succeed as long as it doesn't threaten the life of this child.
One second. Do you want to hook me up with some sort of social skill check that goes with that?
She still doesn't know she's in a baby.
I guess diplomacy.
Gary, with that insight check, did I get anything?
Oh, I
Extra.
didn't modify. I'm sorry.
You could tell that she felt very comfortable talking about this place, about herself. Like when you bring up the insight check could tell you that when you keep bringing up things that she doesn't really understand or is not connected to, that it's causing her to fade. But when she bring up things that she understands, that she knows, that's what's kind of bringing her out of this whatever is causing her to be the specter.
Mm.
Mm.
Did you do the check, Morin?
I was making a check.
I was
Yes.
making the check.
Oh, sorry. Still.
Yeah, I made the check. I accidentally didn't modify, but it was a 27.
Nice. So she says, everyone offers false help. I don't need anything from anyone. I am eternal. I am she. One.
She is saying this mostly to herself. She knows deep down she does need help, but doesn't want to admit it.
And that's kind of carrying through the other insight checks. And you guys have been mostly succeeding your way through this challenge so far. So you guys are starting to get a pretty decent read on her as she's putting up a front of being a little bit stronger than she is. Anything else, Sil?
No, I think I'll look back at the party and shrug, as we do.
So back to kind of the top of the order. One.
Hmm. Okay, so when we asked her about Baneslayer, that was a thing that she knew about. That seemed to kind of bring her back.
She addressed it as a person, which is understandable. But I
Yeah.
still am confused because Tyserial is clearly not Baneslayer. Those are two different.
Right. But
Or she misheard Tyserial because when she spoke back, it was not that name.
but didn't Tyserial like transform and used to be something else, and we like couldn't hear their name?
Mm.
Remember they had like someone they had made an oath to. There were like other redacted gods involved.
And what was the phrase that she used when you said Tyserial's name?
Um,
Dead name.
Dead naming. Is that what what's his face called it when you said things that we can't hear?
No.
No. So we've not heard dead naming before as a term.
It has the same meaning as dead naming does in like our world.
Okay.
But it's a thing that your characters might not be aware of. So you could ask if you wanted.
Okay. Man, this Tyserial thing is so confusing. So because when Tyserial transformed into that other thing that then was attacking the adversary, we never got their name, right? We just ran away because they were like killing that adversary
Yeah.
or fighting. Yeah. So maybe
I think in character, and I think the players as well, when I described the transformation, you guys decided you would like to be in a different zip code.
yeah. So maybe Tyserial is now Black Thuriel. I can't pronounce that word. Okay. Hmm. Okay, so I think I would pull out one of the rods that former Tyserial gave us and ask her, say, these were given to us by, and I'll use that name that starts with an X, and led us to the baby that led us to you. Do you have any idea what this is or why X Scythereal would want us to come to you?
Zactherio would not part with his bones easily. If he's given them to you, you are champions of his. And she does not make champions easily. There is strength in you, and something else. I sense Mother's presence in you.
Ooh, there it is. Keyword. When they say you, are they addressing all of us or one of many?
She's specifically talking to one because one is presenting the rod.
Yes.
What do you say?
I say, I do not know this mother's presence, or at least I do not understand it well. And Zacthuriel may have chosen us to be her champion, but she did not have time to explain what he expected us to do as his champion.
Could
We're
you repeat
seeking guidance.
Could you repeat that again, please?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm not familiar with this mother's presence, or at least I don't understand it. And Zacthuriel may have made us his champion, but she did not give us guidance about what we should be doing. So any light you could shed would be appreciated.
She shakes her head. Mother, angels, other sorts of boring people are ones that have plans like this. They're all so dull. You can't just live your life, have fun, go to parties, get really wasted and figure out what happens next whenever you get out of it. She shakes her head. But no. 7 have come to me, and Some bear mother's touch, others. She looks towards Phil, Griffle, and Drock. Others from my uncle. No, I should still have time, but if I'm to go soon, if you're not given instructions, am I supposed to teach you? I'm not a very good teacher.
Um, Anything you could teach us would be appreciated. I think Zacthariel wanted us to find you.
A bargain, then. With me, I don't really make many of those. Not yet, at least. I'm still young, but if you could make it entertaining, something we could go do, I guess I could be convinced. So, what do I get? What do you get?
Well, what do you want?
I just want to be me. I have all these responsibilities, all these things I'm supposed to do, and I will. I'll do them. I've made oaths, but I feel like I've been delayed.
I'll look back at the party. Any suggestions? As we enter into yet another bargain with a crazy powerful immortal deity that we don't understand.
Yeah, that don't understand is key.
Gary, could you repeat who were the ones who she said had her uncle's touch? Griffle, Phil, and Drock?
Yes.
Okay. And was she implying that the rest of us had her mother's touch?
No, just saying some of you did, some of you didn't. It seems like she's kind of putting into place everybody in the group, but she doesn't talk about Morin. Like, Morin doesn't fit into her understanding very well.
Okay.
So, she's saying, if you want to help me and you want me to help you, what do you want and what are you planning to give me?
Yeah. So I would like to confer with the party. I think we say that we want her to tell us everything she knows about the adversary and this betrayal and why we might have been chosen as champions. Do we want to ask for anything else?
Hearing not a lot of response.
Yeah.
Maybe we could. I don't know what else we could ask, but maybe we could offer some of that replenishable alcohol we have on board. You know?
We'll throw her a real fun party.
I just want to know if there's a table we can sit at over there. And I point at the mist.
Does that sound like the plan? You guys get information and she gets a party.
We could throw her a sweet 600 or however, whatever. I mean, this is kind of like a coming of age, right? This is a rite of passage.
I think we should ask for information and her assistant. She I don't No, I don't know.
She is. We have this whole line of her not admitting that she really needs help. So if we can figure out what she needs help with and not like transgress upon her ego, then maybe we
Yeah,
could help her that way.
right. So she said she was betrayed, so maybe we could offer to help her rectify her betrayal. We could avenge her.
How will we find Dalseth?
She'll have to help us
Yeah.
Do
avenge
we
her.
do we truly want to make such a grand promise?
I
We're
mean,
already beholden to so many.
what's one more grand promise? Hmm.
The death of us, I'm quite certain of it.
So is that the new deal?
Okay, so I think I would say yeah, I feel like I would say we would like to make a bargain with you, but we don't understand our purpose at this point, and we don't understand how we could help you. But if we can find a way that our interests align, we would like to make a bargain, a stronger bargain. So
So
for
you offer
now,
me your favor,
yeah, if you'll offer us yours.
a favor to be invoked for a favor from me? These are not equal things. But should you offer your favor, I could give you something. I know some things.
Okay.
What
What are
makes
some
them
things?
unequal? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
She smiles and looks over at you. My favor is great, and you are mortals. Your favor is chaotic.
Hmm. But
But
you like to
chaos,
party.
yeah, chaos is so interesting.
So she laughs. Yes, that's why I'm even considering it. I don't really do bargains very much, but a little distraction could be nice. You say you wish to make a bargain, and it can be so. You offer favor.
What is a favor that we could provide to one such as you?
Morin. Or Josh.
You see the strands of energy, the force primeval that activates when you make deals with powerful creatures, flow from you to the specter, and then wither and die. It looks like Dalsath, although you are not throwing your weight behind the attempt at binding, and the failure of it only makes you feel a little uneasy. The force primeval look like Dalsath?
So the failing of it, right? So Dalseth, when he tried to invoke the name, he did that the
Oh,
strength
right.
thing. So it looks the same way as when Dalseth tried to do it to Filibuster, only it's one trying to do it to the Spectre. So you offer, and that's what happens when you offer your favor. And she laughs a little bit, and then you see her whole body kind of glitter, and a much more vibrant version of that effect happens.
Strands of force primeval flow from her body, casting a wide net around the group. But before they even settle, you see them begin to decay and die. Not around you, but around her, a tree disintegrating from the roots up.
Hmm.
You see the Spectre look confused and kind of withdraw a little bit and looking side to side.
It appears your favor may not carry the weight it once did.
Oh.
Harsh.
Yeah, but we'll be
Mm.
glad to assist in regaining that.
What? No. My power, my name. It is. And you hear that terrible silence again. A forbiddance? On me? They dare!
Who's they?
This will be one.
Oh, sorry. The specter's face stops shifting, and suddenly it is the face of a young woman with slightly elven features. A powerful, almost childish looking rage twists her face, the righteous anger of a self important teenager being denied something they feel owed.
So this is going to be me talking and you talking. So you hear that sound, but nothing happens.
She screams, loud and powerful and beautiful. The world ripples around you, and afterward the colors look stronger, more vibrant, like the world itself is entering spring and everything around you is bursting with life.
I am she. Hear me. I am.
The sky, which seemed endless when you entered, buckles and cracks at the second utterance of her name. Looking around you, you see the stars were painted or projected on the inside of something rather than being the expanses you thought. As the world cracks, you can see its form and feel as if you are within the seed which you have carried for so long.
The world is bent to me, for I am she. Thrice I speak, and all will know.
She takes in a deep breath and says each of the words slowly and deliberately.
I am.
That clawing sound, the scratching in your ears you heard from the Stitcher of Crowns as it invaded your minds, tears at you now, only to be burned away by a terrible, beautiful voice.
Clotho.
That was my reaction too.
The specter changes not only from a ghost into something that looks living, but into many things. Her form becomes solid and then flows through dozens of different people. Young, beautiful women of every race and age, wearing dresses, suits, armor of greens and reds and golds. Some tall, some short, some dark as teak, others fair as parchment. Even with all their differences, somehow you know that each of them is Clotho, or was once upon a time. Finally, her form settles on a statuesque build, more Amazon than runway model, and it takes you a moment to realize that even though she appears lithe, she stands almost 8 feet tall. She steps lightly onto the far side of the bridge as two huge forms block her path.
Now, you guys didn't get to this during the skill challenge, so I'll need to do the description real quick. So when she goes, you see there are these two armored Eladrin forms that kind of block the way. You can see their faces look concerned, and they're not blocking the ways like guards. They don't have their arms outstretched. Their weapons aren't drawn, but they do have weapons and armor. They more look like bouncers at a club, or maybe close friends hiding someone away from something they do not wish to see. You always tried to protect me from the worst of things, even when it was my own doing. I'm ready. Let me pass.
Guardians bow deeply and dissipate into the rapidly fading mist.
So she steps onto the bridge and then steps onto the far side of the grove. Or far side of the bridge into a grove.
Please tell me I see a dinner table. That's not a dinner table.
So, hang on. You guys had like no skill challenge failures, so I have to reorder some stuff. So, the mist begins to kind of fade away and clear. but before it does, she's facing away from you now, and she turns over her shoulders and says, "A mortal favor, chaotic, but you asked for information. I guess something should be returned." She waves her hand in front of her, and some of the mist stays and coalesces into a couple of figures. Sorry. You get what looks to be an image of. Actually, let's see if I can not have me say. I don't have it typed out. Second. I thought I had this typed out so it could be read. Voice is kind of dying.
While Gary's getting that sorted, I thought this was the game that was supposed to like fix all the confusion, not just cause more.
Right? I was just thinking that like a minute ago.
Was there a description of like how long the Lyric or how long we would expect the Lyric to have been inside the child? Is that something that happens at birth or would have happened earlier?
Usually at birth.
At birth. Okay.
Shall I read?
Because Al Shaib apparently has had a conversation with Clotho in the time since you guys first got the ship.
Mm.
Oh, we haven't asked Baal Shaib, which I thought was one of our goals too.
I think we'll have a bit more time.
So, 1.
The mists look to be clearing at first, but then they mold into images. A handsome Eladrin man, Dalseth, and a beautiful woman. She kneels before him, struggling against invisible bonds.
Dalsath, it's never too late. Late or early, soon will no matter. Your time, all time, is at ending. The master calls for harvest, and I will miss the taste of your name. You prick! You will miss nothing and be nothing. If anything is known of you, it will be the story of a fool who thought he could kill a queen of fairy. Hurtful words. Struggle not. Ending can be release or pain. No reason for pain.
The edge of Dalseth blends down into the mists around his feet and pulls out a long spike and a mallet.
I am life eternal. Get your slimy. Even if you take this body, there will be another. I shall burn your word to ash when my new eyes awake with the dawn. No dawning. There now, good child, sleep. And then the world sort of shatters. The mist dissipates as she screams in pain. Hang on.
Gary, I have a question.
Sure.
Is that spike remind me of the metal that was in the seed?
It does, and you're going to get a bunch more description here in a second.
Wow.
After the images of Dalseth and Clotho fade, the mists clear. Beyond is a grove of carved beauty. There are several small chairs and low tables of living wood, woven baskets of broken crystals, and a single throne of white oak with gems, mostly emeralds, studded throughout. A brilliant curved blade, glowing like the sun, rests in a crystal sheath embedded into the back of the throne. Its hilt rising to be just behind where a sitting person's head would be. Hanging from the hilt, like a hat on a coat rack, is a crown of gold and emeralds. This place must have had a welcoming, cozy feeling to it in ages past. Now the thing dominating the center of the clearing twists that coziness into horror. Clotho walks next to the throne, which swells to fit her size and at her touch. She turns to face you full on for the first time since she changed from being the specter. You feel a wave of power and magic wash over you that is rapidly quashed. In the moment before the magic fades, you feel devotion to her, but also to the idea of having her, coveting her, and holding her. She smiles at you, and then the smile fades slightly as she turns to force herself to look at the center of the clearing.
Hmm.
And if you want to have, like, if you guys want to take turns, so it's not just you reading a whole bunch of stuff, by all means.
Oh, I don't mind. Okay, I'll keep going. Uh, in the center of the clearing is a disc of dark metal, 10 feet diameter, cut into an 11-pointed star. It is mounted nearly perpendicular to the ground, but reclining slightly. On that disc is what is left of a woman. The tatters of her clothing are soaked in blood and clinging awkwardly to her body. They make her seem more naked than if there were no clothes at all. Her body is riddled with long spikes of the same dark metal coated in rust and blood. Large spikes have been forced through her shoulders and hips, pinning her to the platform. Her chest has been broken open, a shimmering pool of liquid silver half filling the cavity where her heart once was. The lower half of her arms and legs have been split, the bones twisted and broken in different ways, with half of each of her hands and feet going, with each broken branching. It looks like she has 8 limbs instead of 4. Each half limb is in a serpentine shape, with pins holding them in place like bugs on a naturalist's collection. Around her head is a huge circular clamp with a winged topping, covering her ears and holding onto her head tight enough that the skull is slightly distorted. 2 more spikes protrude from her eyes. The Iron Star, the 8-legged creature. Each of you has seen this symbol before, although a less brutal and more abstract version. The symbol of faith carried by the followers of Saint Tythan. This damn Leviathan.
So that's what you see in the clearing.
Well, fuck. Weren't we trying? Hang on. I'm trying to get this straight in my head, right? There was essentially a war over the this child between like primordials or like a primordial spirit trying to manifest and then like the fae and then also I guess like the um what's his name
That
I'm bad with names today, sorry, the entity that withered the shaman's hand,
Also,
the adversary.
the adversary. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we think. We don't totally know.
I mean that was our prevailing theory, but it seems like the phase one, right? Which is not what we initially wanted, right? What I'm completely lost.
Yeah.
I will say that as you guys enter the grove and you are standing there and seeing kind of this display of horror in front of you, when she looks towards you, she says, "Please come and be welcome as such as you can. And you asked for knowledge. I will give you what I have." So you have someone to ask questions to if you want.
Um, what is life? Where do we even start?
Do you ask the question, what is life?
No. Sorry.
Um. hmm.
So Phil is default next unless someone has something they want to say.
Is this where you were betrayed?
Yes. I came here to gather myself. You can tell she's trying to say certain things, but it isn't the same as when there's words that are sort of omitted, where there's something that's said, but you can't perceive it. Now it's more like she tries to say something and the words just won't come out of her mouth. I was foolish and afraid. I was stalling for time. I'd not been called on by mother and grandmother to participate in any of my responsibilities, and I was hoping that if I came here and prepared myself, that by the time I was ready to help, that the threat would be over, the war done. But the adversary had already embedded someone in my court, and here he took the trust I gave him and killed me.
See.
Killed?
She shrugs. Killed the me that was her. You can't truly kill me. When she says me, looking at her, you know her name is Clotho. And you get this sense that even if you hadn't heard it before, had never met her, you would look at her and know that's her name.
Uh-huh.
And since we can't make a deal, I suppose this will rely on trust.
She smiles. My power, our power, the court's power, is based on our names. There was a forbiddance on my name. It was a struggle to know that it was there, and difficult to break, but it is now broken. My name exists. My power exists. We shall speak now of friends. Speak now as friends. But should you wish to make a bargain, I could bind you to your word, as you to mine.
Why do you always feel the need? And by that's a royal you. Uh, where is the trust? I feel like bargains aren't always necessary.
When you say, "Where's the trust?" she looks over at the star and looks back to you.
Ah, my fault.
And I can make a bargain with you. I could try to give you things, but mother and grandmother are the people that tend to make bargains with mortals. They have more of a agenda than I do, I guess. Maybe I'm supposed to have one if I was older. Well, if I became older before I became that. But all of the things that I can offer you, they come with strings attached, and responsibilities are no fun.
Oh, I think we've met your mother.
Oh, I know at least two of you have. I sense her presence on you.
She seemed nice enough. What do you think of her?
Mother is mother, a force of nature more than a person, but she can be all right, I guess.
And what of your grandmother?
Don't use mortal terms so lightly. Grandmother and my grandmother are not the same. My grandmother was a terrible, terrible woman, cruel and wicked, and would do just about anything to inflict pain. But grandmother was warmth. Yes, a terrible power, and a terrible presence in some ways, but there was always a kindness to her that was deeper than the roots of the earth.
What is her name?
So she smiles and says, I am not ready to say mother or grandmother's name quite yet. If I were to say it, it would invoke them, summon them to me, and I am not ready.
Do they have a nickname at least?
A nickname? You mean titles? I guess there are many names, but we are the queens of summer. I am the summer lady. My mother is the queen, or she wouldn't make that mistake. I did. She would say, mother is the queen of summer. And then the queen mother is grandmother.
Grandmother, this is me asking Gary. Grandmother is the title.
Grandmother is what she keeps saying, but the title is Queen Mother of Summer.
Okay.
So those are the three. I typed them out. And the one you're talking to is the Summer Lady.
Yes. And where are we now? If you could, is there a name for this place?
You were in. She kind of twists her words. I don't know. I know this looks like my sanctum, but it's not. I'm somewhere else. We're somewhere else. We're in something. And you can tell when she tries to say that there's a big pause and her mouth sort of twists like she's trying to say different things and kind of getting to the answer by trial and error, more or less. Like she can't say a bunch of things, and then the thing that she can say is what she actually speaks.
And what is the... Oh, I guess I can't ask that. Does anyone else have any questions? I'm all up.
Are you able to leave this place?
I would have been. I would have been able to leave. But my own inexperience, my own cowardice, my own fear made this my tomb. And the place I am now, the power I am now. You see a little bit of realization over her face. I'm not her anymore. Oh no. You said a child. There's a child. Please tell me you meant a young woman.
No, a baby.
She shakes her head. This should not be. This is a twisting of things. No. Clotho is a young woman. Clotho is not young. A child is not old. Is not a mother, a grandmother. I am. She is. Young and powerful and strong and free. But a child. Never. She looks deeply worried. If somehow the power has passed to an infant, I don't know what will become of them. But the mantle will mold them, change them. I didn't look like this. I wasn't as pretty as this before I was her. But it changes you. It makes you become Clotho. The child, this infant, will be too, although I don't know what effects on her it'll have. It always passes to young women. at least has in my knowledge. There's probably some sort of thing that can be done, or people that know what will happen, but grandmother would know. I just never listened.
We were told to find an Oddlier to bind to you. Do you know what that is?
A spirit. Yes. I could reach out and try to connect with something. A delaying tactic. Yes, yes. I could try to be dormant. I could try. I'm not good at sitting still. Never have been. I guess you had to pin me in place to get me to stop moving.
Mm,
She licks her lips.
little dark.
Yes, but you would need something, and I say this with no ego or exaggeration. You would need an intensely powerful thing for me to bind and not just consume it. It needs to hold its own on its end of the bargain.
I think I know a guy.
She cocks an eye and looks at you.
I think you know the guy he knows.
She looks a little confused.
Morin? You seem to know more than I do.
You said you know a guy.
But man, I wish I knew his full name. I would know his full name. Can I speak his full name, Gary?
If you can remember it.
I thought that was just something I would know. I got this friend. His name is Ibn Al Shaib. He's just a big, flaming, scary guy. Got some chains around him. We're kind of buds.
She gives you a strange look. Matmaraji Jin. I could not bind to that, nor he to me.
I'm sorry. Can you go back a few words? I'm just a stupid mortal. I did actually say that.
So she repeated and say, that is another creature attuned to the same type of power that I am. Your name is similar, and you speak it of one who you know. He is a Mahmaraji. He cannot bind to me.
What does that word mean in my language?
She thinks. Actually, one of you guys knows the language, so
Mm-hmm.
do you know what it means? Like, does
I don't.
Josh know what it means?
Josh does not know what it means.
Okay. It means like royal advisor in
Wow.
Primordial.
Is he a friend of yours?
She shakes her head. I have never met this one, the one you speak of.
I like look at Morin.
I'm trying to remember when it happened. It was
Yeah, what was the context for this? I'm not totally remembering.
Al Shaib, I think, told me that he spoke to someone named Clotho. Because I asked him if he had had any other visitors or if he'd been able to talk to anyone. Or Gary, did I ask the ship who had been on the ship in Al Shaib's chamber?
So you'd asked him,
Okay.
and as you were fading away, he had said something. But you're right, he had used the name.
What do you remember of the past, I don't know if time works the same for you, but of the past few weeks.
She shrugs. I remember the call to arms. I remember the outer gates were under attack, and that mother and grandmother were mobilizing forces. They called on me to aid, and I was going and didn't. But before that, it was normal life. We threw this party on Silver Spire, and oh. But no, I don't really pay much attention to current events. They're, well, I mean, sometimes they're interesting, but usually pretty boring.
And so this attack would have been like thousands of years ago, right? We think.
Are you asking me or are you asking her?
I'm asking the party. She does not have a good concept of time. This is my point.
Do you know of other betrayals in your court?
She shakes her head. No, I still don't really know what Dalseth did and how what he did was possible. It shouldn't be possible, but I'm not an expert at these things. By my people, I'm very young. I held the office for 150 years. Mother, the current mother, I think she's been mother for 3 or 4,000.
Do you know how long ago you were betrayed? In years or in seals?
One of the two.
So you see her make this sort of like stretching motion with her arm. I'm too disconnected to know when it is. I get the sense that a great time has passed, but I'm too broken off from the world. I need someone to be me to use my power. Do you know when is now? I'm not very good with, well, current affairs, but I know what the date is at least.
I know when is now.
When is now?
Let me look real quick.
85?
1385. Month 5.
So she nods. That's not a system I'm familiar with.
Yeah, we use vampire time. I'm not really into it either.
What came before it?
Not really sure.
Then I can say there is a gap of many years, possibly an age, but even trying to speak truth to you, I cannot find the answer without knowing more.
Oh my god, wait, I really. Does anyone else have anything? I feel like I'm talking a lot.
I was thinking, does someone who knows about it want to ask about the seed? Maybe because how you got it, that just bloomed in the presence of this child, that kind of stuff.
We could explain that to her that. Well, I guess, okay, so I would like to ask about her corpse that is mutilated, and say, we came to you because of the seed that bloomed in the presence of the body that is containing you. But when we originally found the seed, it was.
Sorry.
It's okay. So when we originally found the seed, it was pierced by metal spikes, such as those, and I'll gesture to her body. but we were able to remove them. Are we able to restore this body?
She shakes her head and the body sort of shimmers away and then reappears. It's part of the binding holding this place in. I was struck with archerite and cold iron, and they created this binding. She waves her hand again, and you can see that sort of almost like you're inside of a snow globe, that feeling of there being a roof everywhere. And when she waves her hand, you see all these golden sigils light up on the ceiling. It's focusing magic to keep me here, to keep me trapped, imprisoned. The seed was my prison, and I could only be let out if the containment around me was removed. The cold iron was ripped from the flesh, and a suitable new Clotho was found, was ready to be born into the world.
Back to time stuff. Do you know anything about the Ashtoma?
I remember Ashtoma, yes. It was a city in the Dragon Spires. I remember it. There were people that would come to the dollhouse from there.
And do you remember the end of the Ashtoma?
Ashtoma stood when I died. Ashtoma still stood.
What is the most... Oh, interesting. What is the most important world event on the Prime at the time, around the time of your death?
To me or to other people, I know my answer is going to be that there was an incredible party with the giants, but I don't really pay attention to those things. The wars, the running around and doing things with other peoples. I just enjoy things. I know that there was at Gwitchnead a incredible party that took place, a celebration of 3,000 years of existence, but I don't really know much about that was their people, their city. I just know it was an anniversary party and it got very wild.
Oh wait, Gary, I'm stupid. Did she say that the Ashtoma still stood when she was betrayed?
Yes.
Oh, okay. My questions don't even matter then.
So, actually, let me look at people. Is anyone in the group trained in history?
Yes,
I'm not.
I am.
I am not.
So the only person trained in history, I think, is Phil. Phil, the name that she said, the city name,
Ashtoma.
not Ashtoma, the one she said, Gwitchnead. It sort of tickles something. You're pretty sure you remember reading something like that in the map.
Oh, let's look at the map.
Oh.
Where's the map? There it is.
Where is the map?
Oh, it's the frickin' ocean, bro.
Oh. Well, that's not a good sign.
did it ever rain a lot on the Prime when you were alive?
I will.
Specifically at Gwich'Nyad.
It rains sometimes. Well, if there was anything interesting going on, yeah. The
Wouldn't
Kvitchniad is the
they?
seat of the storm giants. When they do interesting things, it's always a thunderstorm of some kind or another.
Uh, and for how long would that thunderstorm last? In terms I would understand.
She shrugs. Depends on how long the party is. The anniversary party, 3,000 years, I think was, I don't know, a couple months.
Wow. This is very good information. Whereabouts? Gary, do I have a physical version of this map?
What's up?
Do I have a physical version of the map?
Yeah. So the map you guys have, you have a physical one that looks like this.
Can I just like be like, this says Gwich'Nyad here, but this is part of the ocean. Is there a place?
So she looks at it and says, "Oh, this looks so different." But she puts her finger over Newport. This was Kvitchniad, and the sound that led to the city, yes.
And what is the biggest difference on this map to you?
There's a forest where there used to be a civilization. She puts her fingers over, and Tirak is ruins now. This whole place is very different. And the Fangrove is enormous. No, this map has some things the same, but much of what I would recognize is different.
What civilization was in the forest?
Giant kind. This was the seat of power. I grew up, I lived among the giants. I was born in the dollhouse of Gwich'Nyad and lived there my whole life. They were a unique people, and when I was young, one of their gardeners, they got close, but very wrong in understanding that I had something in me, a potential, a power, a strong connection to primal. And when my force primeval came in, it was very strong. They took me, the gardener did, to speak to the one they called the Witch of the Fangrove. And she was she, but not like I became. She was one of my mother's other servants. Terrible creatures, them, but they serve their purpose. But she got me in contact with the courts, and I don't want to give more than that, but I remember things. I remember the shape of this land, even if your map is very different than my memory.
Could the Witch of the Fengrove help this baby that you're inside of?
Not if she knew who was inside. The Witch of the Fangrove serves my mother's other, the Queen of the Winter Fae.
Mm.
Winter does not help summer.
Wait, which one? Which lady did we help? I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, she was imprisoned in ice, but she seemed to not like that. So I think we helped the mother.
We still haven't said her name. Should we name drop?
I think we should. Um, just to be clear, is your mother Eastavir?
Just cringe.
A name that has been used for the Queen of Summer. One I would not utter, but yes.
Okay. And she told us she was bound thrice. And that we needed to free her by sword and seed and something else. Does that refer to freeing you and your grandmother, or is she imprisoned in 3 ways?
Sword and fire and seed. We've already done 2.
Mother? Something has bound Mother?
You,
I don't even know what could do that. Uh, As far as how to stop something that I don't even know where you'd start. If I came against something that I didn't understand, I would go ask Mother, and if she didn't know, I'd go ask Grandmother. But if I've been imprisoned, if I've been taken, if the power of the Summer Lady has been locked from the world for thousands of years, then that must mean that Mother and Grandmother are also bound. I I can try, but I don't know where to start.
do you know where we could find your grandmother?
I do, or at least I know where she was. But if she's been bound, she cannot be home. Or maybe she could. I I don't understand what could bind mother or grandmother. I barely understand what bound me, and I am the least of the 3.
Wait a second. We found, this is mostly to one, but also to everyone. We found the seed on Prosperity. We
Mm.
freed east of here on Prosperity, and there's also a big dark hole on Prosperity with a big scary lady.
Good
Could
point.
al- who could
Yeah.
also be bound.
Do you say that
Yeah.
out loud?
Yeah.
So you say that, and you see, when you say prosperity, you see her like twitch.
In a good way?
No,
It's not
like someone stabbed her.
Oh no. Okay, so forgive us. We are way out of our depth.
always.
Are these, and you might not even know about these, but there are these big ships in our world now. Um, do they in some way imprison you and use your energy? Is that a
You
thing you know about?
you spoke a name. Is that a name of one of these ships?
It is.
She nods. I know less of them than I should. I They're the adversary's soldiers, his army, his fleet of murderers and slavers.
Well, shit.
But if one of those ships had me, had mother, had grandmother, then we would have to take it from them. And I mean no offense, but I am not sure you are up to the task.
Neither are
Champions
we.
of Summer would fall when facing against one of the Flayers, and I do not think each of you together could take them. They are a difficult opponent, and even if you take away their technology, their ships, they have so many slaves, so many numbers. Their army is vast, and I think from what you've told me that they won. Your overlords would not look kindly on freeing the ones they wish to defeat.
Wait.
Well, they're largely defunct. So that could be going for us.
I'm like off to the side, like freaking out. There is a I I'm saying this out loud. There is a big this the ship we found you in and your mother in, and possibly your grandmother, uh, also had a large amount of people frozen,
Yep,
and
that's
many
true
of
too.
them were elvish in nature.
Hmm.
Uh, do, do
They had
you
this symbol. I show her the crown and the sword symbol that I've been carrying around in my notebook forever.
So she waves her hand, and you see a cloak appears in her hand that is brilliant green, outlined in gold, and has the symbol of a scimitar with a crown around the hilt.
Yep, that's the one.
is,
She kind of
is it
holds it next to her throne, and you can see that the sword on the image, the sword that's embedded in her throne, and the crown is the same. Summer
do you
Champ,
think that this ship is a prison ship of some kind, or are those slaves?
you. She shakes her head. Sorry, a lot of times when anyone that ascends to being more than mortal, when they've been that way for a long time, they forget what it is to be mortal. But I still have little bits and pieces that I remember. And I remember that sometimes you can say a thing and not know a thing. You said the name of the ship, so you don't know the name of the ship.
Huh?
That doesn't surprise me.
There's a
You
lot we don't know.
you called it prosperity. But when you say the word, and you say it to mean the ship, you're using its name. My people, names are different than yours. I say this word, and it is just a word. But if I said it and meant it to be your ship, I could not say that word, for its true name, the grave of summer, is the only word I could use for it.
Mm.
Literally so cool. Okay. Sorry, I didn't actually say that out loud. uh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. They did seem not alive. It,
It seemed
a little
bad.
bit darker than I imagined.
Mhm.
Do you know the true names of any other of these that you'd be willing to speak about?
We could tell
That's,
you the names of the other ships that we know of.
If it wouldn't cause you too much pain.
it is not pain, it's just uncomfortable. But that's not how the names work. If you told me the names, I could try, but you would have to know them. It's a difficult thing to explain. You can't point to. You have the map out still. She points. Newport, have you been to this place?
No.
You could not tell me Newport and have me understand you meant Gvichniad because you don't know the place. You've not been there, experienced it, felt it. It doesn't have an identity in your mind. It's just words on a page. It would be like me saying Newport, and I've not been there. It's not a name. It's a name. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
how about Faith? We have been there.
So she like does that same sort of like cringe. Yes, I know that name.
And what of its uh, name, if you will?
The harrowing of the gods.
Do any of these have pleasant terms associated with them?
I'm gonna guess no.
Any of the Mind Flayer's prison ships have pleasant names. Not the true names, only the ones that they twist and give to their people, their slaves and subjects, to make them more pliable.
There's a word I haven't heard before.
So,
Uh,
so to free you, we need to defeat these ships. You said that it's beyond our abilities, which I fully believe. What might be a good first step if one were to want to take on this seemingly very important task?
Mortals. I love it. To free me, you would have to go back in time first, and then do what you've already done. I am here and able. She puts her hand up, and you see like the sky, or like the inside of the snow globe thing. It move, like it bulges when she moves her hand. I am contained of my own will now. You gave me back my name. When I broke the forbiddance, I cannot be contained here. But I do not know what leaving here will do to the next holder of the mantle. I don't want to kill an innocent if I don't have to. But if things are as dire as they are, maybe her sacrifice would be warranted.
Hmm.
Has anyone else here been to a different ship team?
Morin has, right?
Um,
Don't the
I-
primordial you start on a ship?
I
Is your
don't
ship
believe so.
man? Yes, you've been to Sanctuary.
Is it a ship?
Sanctuary has a ship, yeah.
Oh, it has a ship. Have I been on the ship?
You've been close enough that, yes.
Griffel's been to another one as well. I think it was Concordance.
Hmm.
What's the name of the Sanctuary ship?
Are you asking me or are you asking her?
I'm asking you.
The name, it's Sanctuary is the name of the ship.
Yeah, yeah.
They're synonymous.
And Gary,
Noun.
Stratum doesn't have a ship, correct?
Stratum is the ship, yes.
Oh, okay. So I have a ship as well.
Yeah, the like major towns in this game are both the name of the town and ship.
Not all of them, but many of them.
But like many of them, yeah.
Like, for example, the Goliath City, Flace, does not have a official world ship. They've got a big beacon, but they don't have a world ship.
So the other ones we know about are Endeavor and Grace, but none of us have been there, right?
Correct.
And then Syl, is there one in the vampire underworld where you're
Not that
from?
I'm aware of.
No.
Okay. We think there are 12, so this is 5 of them. that we
Or
can
are
ask.
there 13?
As you're talking, she says, there would be 11, or 7 sets of 11 in a fleet.
7 sets in a. Hello? 7 sets of 11.
So, were you asking any of the other names of the ships?
Yes, but I feel
Yeah.
that my team members have to speak them to cause her more pain.
Sure, I'll go next. What can you tell us of the ship Stratum?
The Enforcer That one, I don't know. It doesn't feel against me, I guess. That one doesn't give me much to go on, but its real name is the Enforcer.
So Faith was harrower of the gods?
The harrowing of the gods.
The harrowing. And
Oh,
prosperity
I'm
was
talking to myself. I'm sorry.
Grave of Summer.
great summer.
I had typed them out, but I was talking to myself from doing hidden checks and stuff.
No worries.
And so I'll ask Clotho, what is the name of sanctuary?
You're muted, Gary, if you didn't mean to be.
Sec coffee.
okay.
Interesting.
It's an odd name. Yep.
Fascinating name.
Well, for a city that's maybe developing a world-ending plague.
We should ask
No, this is
to.
no. But what's interesting about Sanctuary, and I'm sure something about the name will clue me in, is like there's some sort of infectious effect where the the adversary has sort of invaded.
Well, because the thing about these ships that we know is like when you're on or near that ship, it feels like the name of the ship like embodies being there.
Sanctuary is no more.
Oh.
I was gonna. So she says, "Sanctuary is no more. It holds no meaning in my mind." I was trying to say it, but took me a while.
What about our ship, guys? Should we ask? I forget the name of our ship.
Superstition's End.
Superstition's End.
Right. We should ask her about that one.
Our ship is a new ship. It's not
Yeah.
an old ship.
Right, but it is still somehow tied to Al Shaib. I'm just curious if there's anything to do with it.
Yeah, I think it's worth asking.
It's a new ship?
Yeah,
Yes.
it was created by the Church of the Elements.
So she says, "The name of that ship is likely the name that you gave it, or it isn't given. It has not been twisted by the adversary."
So, what about concordance?
So she. Angel's Fall is concordance.
Ah,
Oh.
well, that doesn't sound good.
And what of the plane known as Celestia? What meaning does it hold?
You say that name, and she kind of breathes in deep. I had imagined if the gods were destroyed, that their home would be too. I guess it's good to hear that some things still linger. But Celestia, I do not believe could be changed, perverted, couldn't be twisted by the adversary. They would need to destroy it completely. No, it is still what it once was.
It was in pretty bad shape when we were there. I'm sorry to tell you.
She nods. They were, well, a lot of the people that were in Celestia, a lot of people that had power were restrictive. But some of the people there could be fun and good people. Bad people too, but the kind of bad people that you like to party with.
If she was a giant, this is more to the party, like in the one's chat psychic thing. The giant speech. Did we get it fully deciphered? Should we ask her about the giant speech? Because she was a giant at one point, correct? That's why Gary mentioned.
She was a Goliath and she lived with the giants.
Ah, okay.
But I mean, it's reasonable to assume if she lived her whole life with giants that she would know
Yeah.
she'd be a giant pretty well.
Yeah, he was still going with that assumption. But I can't remember how much of it, like, is it fully deciphered or just like mostly based on what's her name? What's her name's translation anyway?
So you have a translation. It's in Scrit's channel in Discord. So we go to court conversations. Scrit, it's one of the pinned things.
I always forget about the pins. Thanks. Yeah, Renata. Okay, yeah.
Can a few things. What does it mean to be a knower of threes?
Knower of threes is a name for someone with connection to, or their skein is connected to the courts.
I don't feel like listing all of these out. And you seem to regard me a little more kindly than most people. And by me, I mean a goblin. Is there a reason for that?
She shrugs. Your lord's servants never had ill will towards me. I thought they were quite fun, even if they can be very deadly. I have never had problem with goblin kind, although I understand those that do.
And do the names Venom Hand, Twisted Skyne, or Progenitor of Pestilence mean anything to you?
In reference to what?
Well, on one of the ships when we were on our way to Celestia, I was addressed, as were all of us.
And those were titles or names given you.
Yes.
Then I apologize for my assumptions. If your skein is twisted, then you do not follow your lord?
I don't even know what it means to do that.
She shakes her head. Man, seems like the world has gone to shit.
You'd be surprised. It's probably worse than you think.
We're trying to fix it.
I would assume any peoples that you meet of my strength, I guess, position in the universe, would assume you are a servant of the Lord of the Goblins. And that assumption carries a heavy weight for many people.
Griffel just like stares blankly at Philly, being like, "There's a lord of goblins."
Yeah, you haven't heard of him? He likes to party.
She looks towards Griffel and then to Drock. None of you three serve?
Oh, well, I serve the guild. And these fine captains also.
So she kind of walks over towards Griffel and says, "You are a huntress. Your connection would be easiest to sense, but I do not wish to reach in your skein without your permission. I would like to know if I can."
Oh, absolutely. Let me hold on a second, and I pull out my water skin.
What's a skein?
Are you asking her?
Yeah.
Or- It's grandmother would explain it better than me, but it's your fate, your web of decisions and choices and eventualities, the divine or natural order of your lives, how it connects with other things and is bound by the accords. It, she waves her hand over Griffel's head, and you see this web of green light kind of appear over her hand. It tells people and things and basic forces of the universe how you are to be treated. And yours is severed. I sense no connection to your lord. She waves her hand back over your head and the little web disappears. I imagine it's much the same for the rest of you, but I guess it makes sense. If any are imprisoned, then all must be. If one is free, then they could free the others. I could free the others. Uncle, mother, grandmother, mother's other. Oh, well, I guess I can leave my other in her hole for a little while, but eventually I could free all of them. If I'm the only one free, then this is my chance to make up. To make up for not calling when mother and grandmother called for me, for being a coward.
You're
No,
not free. Wait.
Can we pause real quick? If my skein were not twisted, which feels kind of dirty to say at this point, uh, does that mean every step I take in life is predetermined?
she shakes her head. Your skein is twisted because you are mortal and not meant to be.
Not meant to be.
You're a goblin.
And are goblins not normally mortal?
You three are the first I've met. Well,
Interesting.
the first he's met that are mortal.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting turn of events. And what of, and I gestured to everyone else. We've got one here. She's a Eladrin. Is she mortal?
I can sense that 6 of the 7 of you are mortal, yes. And, well, 4 of you shouldn't be.
But there's 6 of us guys. Like,
7 of us?
yeah. So first off, why 7?
She gives you a strange look.
Can you point to each of us, please?
So she goes and counts to 7, and she counts Phil twice.
Oh, the sword?
Yeah, Bane player.
Okay, that makes sense then. I want to ask, do the names Gatewatcher, Seal Touched, or Accorded Warden mean anything to you?
Titles, names. I had a friend once who carried each of those. And you can see she's trying to say things. She's alive. She's alive. I have a friend who was a warden of the gates. A battle mine. Yes. If you are one, or wish to be and have the potential in you, that is a noble calling of its own. Although, I'm sorry, I did not consider it a possibility. You are goblin. But it's a different world. Yes.
Yes, I've been given the title of Battle Mind, and I'm apparently one of the first in a long time.
She nods. Then maybe that is my next step. Maybe I need to find, if I can't find grandmother or mother, if uncle or if other people, all of the powers that be that I know are imprisoned, locked away, then I need to find something else. You see her kind of trying to say words, and she just at first looked a little hopeful, and then as she keeps trying to say things, you can see that sort of like dark mood come over her.
What can you tell me about your friend? I am owed a favor, specifically in tracking down another battle mind to help me. Maybe I can use that favor to find your friend and work with them.
So she stops trying to say things and takes a deep breath. Bit of a bummer to find out that everyone you know is dead and gone. But if Champion Amoth lives, then yes, if you can find her, then that could be very helpful. I don't know where she is, but she exists, or I would not be able to say her name.
There's another person I'm interested in. Uh, what do you know about Ibn Zinshi Zinsha, if anything?
She says, I don't know them personally, but given their name, I know where they're from, at least.
Hmm. Well, I know where he's from too, so that's old news.
I met the sire, but not the one you mentioned.
Is there anything about Champion Amoth you would be able to tell us that would help us locate them?
She was a champion. Well, she was a mortal champion. At least I thought she was. All signs, everything I knew said she was mortal, but if she yet lives, something has changed. Or I was wrong. There is a lot I could tell you about Amoth, although much of what I know is stories from my guards, my court, people that served alongside her. She was a champion of summer before I became Clotho, and was still in my time. But I guess I could tell you, well, I could show you. She waves her hand, and you see an illusion appear next to her of a tiefling. And it's a tiefling wearing this very strange looking, like chitinous armor, and has several swords around her body. And says, "This is Champion Amoth, or at least what she looked like when I knew her."
And was she on this plane or another plane?
She was where she wished to be. She gestures, and a shield appears on one arm, and you see on the shield there's a seven stars that are aligned in a constellation. It's the weapon given to her by, I can't say the name anymore. The god is no more, but maybe the favor yet exists. The shield allowed her to travel wherever she wished, and she was a difficult creature to pen down. all of the members of the crusade are. So you see the summer lady sort of thinking, but I don't know how that works. The crusade exists if Amoth yet lives, unless she betrayed them or is still fighting, but that makes no sense. The crusade is against the adversary, and their people would do anything to stop them. But how then does Amoth yet live, and they have conquered and won?
Whoever said that they won?
She shrugs. I am trapped. My mother, well, again, she would make the mistake, but mother is trapped. Grandmother is trapped. All the other powerful forces of the universe have been beaten, the gods slain. I'm not sure what else victory would mean.
There are those still fighting. I can't remember. This is me out of character. I can't remember the name. The Tyserial's new name. What's Tyserial's new name again?
It's Lacatherial.
Lacatherial. Lacatherial is still fighting in Celestia when we last saw them. So the fight still continues.
Good. Then I'll have people to fight with, to help. I'll need to try to find some way to get more people of my court, but I can do some things on my own.
And how much can you do from here?
Very little. But if you can find me a spirit to connect with, then I can ease the new holder of the mantle into being me.
So once we leave this area, is there any way for us to communicate with you?
Jesus. I may be able to find a way, although I don't really know much of this ritual bullshit. It's kind of boring and dry stuff. But I could figure out some way to do it. Or, oh, no. Again, much of the power that I could give you would come with responsibilities, and some of that would allow me to communicate with you wherever you were. But you would have to be willing to respect the responsibilities that come with the power.
And what are those responsibilities?
To champion Summer, to protect. And then she says something, and she like pauses for a second and realizes that word is forbidden. To protect the home of to protect the lands of She. You would be able to be called upon by me in times of war, which now seems to be one of those times.
And does our service end?
Those that have bound themselves to Summer may be released, but it takes one of us to release you. We could also bind for a specific amount of time, a customary year and a day given to temporary nights of summer.
And why not create customs of our own?
Because if we create a custom, it will need time and utterance. It will need will following it before it is concrete. If it is not something of the accords, then it would need to be bound to those accords to have meaning.
What are the accords? Have I heard that before, Gary?
You've heard a couple people talk about the accords, but in the vampire lands, they talked about the Accords very obtusely, and she talks about them very clearly, but like there's something that everybody knows.
I will ask then. What are the Accords?
Well, as long as you are mortal, you would be binding yourselves to my court, to me, by the Celia Accords, the Accords of Summer, that are the rules of the universe that dictate what things can be done between mortals and immortals, between forces, primeval and otherwise, and people with souls, chaotic, short lived. If you were immortal and dealing with another immortal, with another force, you would be bound by the Unseelie Accords, by the Courts of Winter. I know them, but it would be difficult to enumerate them. I could explain them, I guess, but it would take me time to figure out the right words.
And ever since we've contacted, saved, whatever word you want to use, your mother, people have told us that we're surrounded by a wrongness. Do you feel differently?
You and you, she gestures to Phil and one, have an aura from my mother. Oh, well, again, she would make the mistake, but she would say from mother. If others could sense it, because it is not properly veiled, they may not like it, but I'm not sure it would be a wrongness. I could veil your connection with me or with her. It would be easily done.
And do I lose the use of it?
Veiling a thing does not disrupt the thing. It merely hides it or makes it look as one thing to another. A less perverse version of your naming of ships. I would not, however, hide your indiscretions. She nods towards Syl.
What indiscretions?
I feel a broken oath upon you.
Oh, yes, I have done that. What does this mean for me?
It means that were you not doing things to put me in your debt, I would be incentivized to fulfill the debt of a broken oath, especially one made with Summer's power. You've broken your bond, but there's circumstances around it I don't really understand. And I've never been really much of a rule enforcer anyways. But from what I can see, it was a powerful bond, and you broke it. Broke it irreparably. That would be a difficult thing to come out of.
Out of character, does Drock know what this oath that's been broken was already, or is that new to me?
I don't think any of us but Syl do.
Okay.
Isn't that the
I
one
think,
that Al Shaib broke?
yeah, that's the one I was thinking. My
Same.
bond to bear, my indenture.
Is it considered broken? I thought he just took it upon himself.
No, he broke all previous bonds before making a pact with me.
I see.
Do again, out of character, right? Is that something you want to tell her, like how it was broken and by who? Because she seems. Did we actually confirm that? Does she know him? Is this the same
He
lady?
has 100% said her name before. Like, I was looking through my notes, and one of the first times we met him, as he sent us away, he said, "Oh, Clotho, good to see you."
Right, but is Clotho a title or the actual person's name?
I think it's the spirit that it can have different bodies, but it is her.
Okay, so if she knows Al Shaib, you might want to tell her he's the one who broke it and why. But that's on you, all right? I mean, this is out of character.
Yeah, I'd be willing to share that. So, yeah, I would say that my pact was broken by Al Shaib. I didn't realize how large of a transgression it would be.
How could you not realize how large of a transgression could be? You gave your word, you gave your oath, you bound your soul to a duty and task, and then you had Shin break it.
Actually, I have a question for you, Gary, because it's unclear to me. Was I taken into an indenture against my will, or was I?
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say that this the indenture that was placed upon me was placed against my will. How did I agree to that?
It cannot be your. She walks over towards you. I ask again permission to see your sky.
Yes, you may.
She waves her hand over your head. And you see that when Griffles was there, it was this sort of net of like glowing green. Yours is this like tangled mass of like white and black threads kind of constantly moving into and out of one another. And there is this sort of sickly green glow around the whole mass.
Oh, fun.
You're telling the truth. Summer power, twisted, confused, and filtered through foulness. She shakes her head. She waves her hand and puts it back in your head. Wherever you got that, whatever that was done to you, it's offensive to me and will be to many people to see it is broken on you, but knowing the context is important. Knowing that you are vile in appearance to me, but the vileness done to you, far, far greater, a far worse evil that has been done. A twisting of base summer's power, a conflating of a contract with a bargain. She shakes her head. It's wrong. Something Mother would stamp out were she able to use anything in the world. Not something that would have existed in my time. Not for very long. It is in the face of the Accords. Bargain must be willing, or it is no bargain.
Is there any way this can be rectified? Will I just carry this stain with me forever?
Until it is replaced and removed. Whatever that power was, whatever summer power was taken and used to bind you, that has to be undone. And when the summer power is true, when it is able to act upon you, it would rebind you and release you, and you would be free of the burden, the bargain, and the stain.
I must find the person that originally took me into their power.
Or find the thing that they twisted to put that pact on you.
Hmm.
So,
I have another.
go ahead.
I had another question that's entirely unrelated, which was about. I wanted to ask about uh, Fey effects on dragon consciousness. Um, I'll try and roleplay it. My companions and I have come into, or my companions have been given fey boons that, when combined, restored the consciousness to a dragon named Altanuan. I've made it my personal mission to see if I can restore their consciousness again, for it was only temporary. Do you know anything about this?
Restoring of dragon consciousness. No, I
Ah,
don't know what had been done to them to take away their consciousness, but dragons are. Their minds, their souls are fundamental to the universe. They're some of the basic building blocks that things work and run on. If the courts are contained, if we are not allowed to function, then the channels that allow them to draw upon Io would no longer work.
interesting. So the fey power, so the dragon skin channel fey power.
No. Dragons draw their essence, their spirit, their who they are from the original dragon, from the first. The method that they do, their memory of the dragons before them, their understanding of their place in the universe, it's part of the universe. It's a mechanism that functions and allows them to be what and who they are. But all of those mechanisms, all those pieces that hold everything in place, that is what the courts do. We enforce the rules of things. We keep things functioning as they should be. And without the courts, things will drift apart, fail, break. And one of those things might be your dragons.
Thank you. That's very useful information.
So I wonder if that means that Eastavir has been recaptured, because now that Vertak and Altanuan are no longer conscious, maybe her power is dwindling.
Yeah, I'm wondering. I mean, is the courts are completely scattered, right? Like there's no system in place at all. So would one capture even be that big a deal?
What was I don't know. Is the question being asked to me?
That's no, kind of just in general. I'm just, yeah, never mind.
Yeah, hard to know. I mean, well, now that Clotho is sort of freed again, we could see if that had any effect on Vertak.
Yeah.
I have a couple other questions for Clotho. You mentioned your uncle. What might we know him as?
Uncle is Lord of the Wild Fae, Lord of the Goblins.
Okay.
He is.
Oh no. And you suspect he's bound as well?
If Uncle were not, he would rescue his sisters.
And you mentioned your other. Are there. Who is that?
The
For
Winter
every
Lady.
for every member of the summer court, there is a winter court.
She nods. For the royals, at least. Not every person has their double in the other.
Do they have the same names?
Yeah, so it's Winter Lady, Winter Queen, Queen Mother, Winter.
But not Clotho.
No,
Okay.
that was a very vehement no.
Okay. All right. And what can you tell us about the wild hunt?
That is. Uh, that is a big question. What do you wish to know about the hunt?
Well, we spoke with a corpse recently and asked what their most important memory was. And they said that it was when their master called them to champion the wild hunt. And we're not familiar with this.
To call the wild hunt.
To call the wild hunt. Thank you.
The wild hunt is a. Well, I've heard my mother's other speak on it at length. I don't really like her and I didn't really listen very well, but it's a corrective measure. It's something that allows things that are not following their nature to be put back in place or destroyed and remade. If, say, an angel, which cannot be changed, cannot be killed simply, if it was going against its nature, its basic purpose, I guess you'd say, then the hunt could be called to take them down and remake them into something that forms its correct purpose, to restore them to nature.
And so this hunt, who is in the hunt? Who conducts the hunt?
My uncle and his champions.
We met one, sort of, on the ship.
Mhm.
We, found a corpse. Long dead. We asked it a question. What was the most important thing you ever did? And it
That's how we got to this part of the
Yeah, that's how we
conversation.
got to this part.
I
That's
think
fine.
you were gone.
Oh, sorry, I was AFK. My bad.
Sorry,
Right,
sorry.
right.
Good.
So this wild hunt could even reset the nature of an angel.
It could, I think. I, like I said, it's not really a summer thing, or really even a winter thing. It's a wild fae thing. They know the rules. They know how it works and functions. I would more expect your friend here, she gestures towards Filibuster, to know more than I. But he's not connected to his lord anymore. Most of the ones that do the tracking and some of the killing, some of the worse than killing, tend to be goblins.
Okay. And what do you know about the Alandar?
The lines of the brood. I know it exists. It's not the worst place to be, but it's very bad for mortals, I guess.
It seems to be spreading as of late, and we met a guy who's very invested in beating it back. Does that have any significance to you?
She shrugs. It's an eternal battleground. There's always people fighting. Fighting is mostly just dull.
Yeah.
Again, you can tell that she's heard of the topic. It's more just like it's something that never really interested her, so she just doesn't know that much about it.
Got it.
Hmm. Can I ask you a really uncomfortable question?
She smiles. Oh, all the ones up to now have been so comfortable.
This one may be a little more so, possibly. Uh, when I was younger, let's say, I don't really know at this point. Time's a blur, but I used to work on the ship. Starts with a P and ends in, that's a really hard word to say. Ausperity. Uh, and I found this box, and I hold up this my holy symbol, and it has been teaching me things and has lent me power. And learning what I have of the ship recently, it concerns me a little bit. I'm wondering if you could help me understand this.
I don't really understand the technology of the adversary, but I can recognize it when I see it. That piece is one of their controls. I don't know much more than that.
What do you mean by controls?
One of their communication devices, things that their foot soldiers use to communicate with commanders and with their ships and their overlords.
And do you think it's possible that we could reverse engineer this in some way and take back control?
She shrugs. I don't know anything about that stuff. In the courts, when we find technology of outsiders, we tend to just destroy it.
That makes sense. And if I've been hearing things from this box, who might been on the other side?
It is probably one of the adversary's soldiers. The flayers are their kin.
I see. Interesting.
So she basically is letting you guys know she can kind of get out whenever she wants, but if she does come out, she's not really sure what's going to happen to the infant. And if you guys want her to be able to interact and do stuff in the world, she's going to need to be able to be connected to something else that is strong enough to not just get destroyed by her. And if you want power of hers, basically, her power is contained within this area. So if you want something from her that can use outside of here, she would have to give you something here if you wanted to take it with you. You guys can keep asking her questions. That's perfectly fine. I did kind of want to let her be here as a non-time gated sort of open answering question of the ones that she has the answers to. But I do want to know what the group kind of plans to do with the information they have so far.
Plan? We don't have any plans. Barely know what's going on.
Ah, the storm kind of, now that I know it's like party time, it became less interesting.
Okay.
uh, you go.
Well, so one thing that I'm thinking is I'm looking back at the ghostly conversation from when we were on Prosperity. So basically, we heard me and my sister talking, and then two additional voices cutting in. And I now think that those two additional voices were grandmother and the adversary. So I think that at some point we need to go back to Prosperity to try to free the grandmother.
I'm gonna tell you what Michael's been thinking this entire time.
Okay.
All of this has been leading up to us going to Hope. Right? What's the farm town called? That's Hope, right?
Haven.
Haven.
Haven. Go to Haven, gather our forces, and then go back to Prosperity. Because we have to probably fight back in.
True.
Because they're gonna be a little more on lock, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
then
we would have to find a way to convince them of something.
and we
Is
also
there
have to bind Clotho, I think.
Yeah, we still need to
Maybe.
find a spirit.
Clotho, is there someone on the Prime who would know of you?
My name could not be uttered on the Prime or anywhere else while it was forbidden.
I'm thinking if you gave me like a handkerchief or something, like in Shrek.
The DM doesn't understand what you're asking.
Like, can you give me like a symbol or a way to represent you so I can, when I share what we've learned, it carries more weight.
Any that know Summer and her knights would recognize the symbol. She actually probably still has that cloak on the throne, and she would kind of gesture towards it. In my time, at least, it was a commonly and well-known symbol.
I'm more asking if a way to convince people that I've met you than saying I know this picture.
I could give you something that would allow you to show someone else, like my mother gave to you and her. But like I said, it comes with responsibilities, and I don't really like those myself, so I don't really try to convince other people to doing it. Kind of why I'm bad at bargains. If you wish it, I can make you a Knight of Summer for all time or for a specific time, and you would carry a portion of Summer's strength with you into the world.
I think that sounds good, personally.
Yeah, I'm with that plan. Especially if that will let us communicate.
Are we doing the time restriction?
Yeah, probably.
I'm trying to become immortal.
Yeah, I don't know about a restriction. I don't know.
Can it be a conditional restriction instead of, or sorry, a conditional ending instead of a time ending?
It can end on many things. The tradition is a year and a day, but that tradition isn't custom. There's no particular power to that time frame, but it is, I guess you would say, default.
And if we want to rebind after that, is that possible?
There's nothing that would prevent you from doing so, but it's not very common.
A year is a long time for mortals.
I don't know. Look at the last 2 years. They kind of flew by. I'd be fine binding for a year as a start.
Yeah, that works for me too.
Can Clotho, can you tell me how long I'm bound to your mother?
You did not make a conditional binding with her, as far as I can see.
Oh, that's right, we didn't. That's true. And what if I ate food?
Then you are less likely to be hungry.
Food offered by your mother.
You could see that like twist in her mouth. Like she knew what you meant. She was just being coy. Mother makes her contracts like that. It is her custom. She's associated with hearth and home. Food is her way of binding. That is not my way.
Can we have multiple bindings at once?
Not to multiple courts, but bound to summer and yet again to summer could be fine. Any bindings I would do would be subservient to mother, and any she would do subservient to grandmother.
Our deals
Is
with
it-
Al Shaib, are they bindings?
But that's a binding of summer. So it shouldn't matter. Right?
Oh, Al
Gary?
Shaib is still part of the court of summer?
Not like a royal person, but he is associated, as far as I know.
Is this something you're saying out loud?
Yeah.
Sure.
She would shake her head and say, to my knowledge, we would not allow Maharaji into the court.
And would this break bindings with him?
They would be stronger, likely. A conflict could be created, yes. I believe that a binding to summer would be stronger than a binding to any of the Shin. But summer's power is not what it once was. I cannot say for certain.
Would it break our binding? Or just...
That's what I just asked.
Yeah,
You said-
she said there'd be a conflict. I'm wondering if, like, if we get into a situation where there's a conflict, we have to uphold one over the other, or is it going to break one and only be left with one?
So I really wish I could actually use her voice instead of having to hoarsely whisper, but she'll say that she doesn't really know. She knows that having them between two entities can be problematic, and that she's pretty certain that if you're in a position where you have to break one or the other, that summer will override and destroy the other bond, but she doesn't know.
Oh, but it won't break now, it'll break at that time. Is that
Right.
correct?
Correct.
Okay. So it's just kind of a, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. So if we had two bindings and we got stuck in a conflict, we'd have to follow the one that was stronger.
Right. So right now, if you took this offer from the Summer Lady while you were while you were one of her knights, if you were given the choice between protect the interests of Summer or free Al Shaib, she thinks that the free Al Shaib thing would be superseded by protect Summer.
Okay. I think I'm fine with that.
So I haven't heard from Griffel in a little while. What's Griffel thinking about all this?
Griffel is having difficulty digesting. I think my strongest, my strongest binding is to Al Shaib and to free him, and Griffel's not keen on anything that could potentially come into conflict with that, because he's imagining a situation where it definitely does come into conflict, and then Al Shaib would be pretty pissed.
I'm also on that side.
And I will say that you can sort of tell that the Summer Lady doesn't like those sorts of situations, like those conflicting interests. And that's why she's like, I can give you this power, but I can't give you power without the other stuff that comes with it. And she knows that she doesn't like following those rules, so assumes that you guys would not like them either.
And I don't think we all have to bind either. I think, if a couple
I
people
mean,
didn't want
are
to.
you welcome on the ship if you're not bound? Well, I guess you
It's
have
not.
both. That's
Yeah, it's not going to break the binding now. It's going to break it if we ever come into conflict.
yeah, but there could be a time where some of us have that binding and some of us do not, and then the party comes into conflict.
Accurate.
Which
Is that a
sounds
bad thing?
like a very interesting dynamic, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Frankly, if nobody asked my opinion, but well, I'm gonna give it anyway. You are all far too keen to bind yourselves to these supernatural beings. Good old steel has always been good enough for me. And Griffle just like clanks her axes together.
My thing is, in order to stay in contact, in order to be able to communicate, it sounds like one of us would need to bind. And if that's a requirement, then I think at least one of us doing that's probably wise. We can stay in contact, not necessarily a want, but just a necessity. And then if it ever came into conflict, I still think, while I might not be able to actively help free Al Shaib, that is still a goal of mine. So I would let the party do that while I try and maintain the bond to Clotho, right? So it's both things are desirable, but yeah, I can't foresee the conflicts in the future, so I don't know. My main thing is,
Clotho, what of an exception?
What do you mean?
If I were to say protect the Summer's Court, except in this case.
Then you would be no summer night.
No change then.
So I'm just gonna go from the top of the order and get what people thinking. So Syl, what is your thought?
I'd be willing to become a summer knight if she'll have me. I know that my breaking of a bond is an issue for her. I'm also very interested in finding a spirit for her to bind to and want to ask more questions about that.
Yeah, and sorry, Gary, before you continue, I just have one silly question. For those already bound to Mother, that binding would already take precedence over Al Shaib's then, wouldn't it? So binding to a second
we didn't,
summer wouldn't hurt.
We didn't like promise to be her knight. We just took one of her gifts as a thank you for freeing her.
It's a little different.
Okay.
So one's like a friend of the court, right? Which is what they did. What Clotho is saying is you'd be like a member of the court. You'd be the lowest rank. You'd be a knight, and that means you're like your duty is to the court. But still, it sounded like you had another question for her. Do you want to go ahead and ask?
Yeah, you mentioned that you may have the ability to communicate with a spirit powerful enough to bond with you, or am I mistaken?
If this host of the mantle was close, I could try to reach out, but I don't know what I could do without harming the host, and especially if they're an infant, that means they didn't choose to have this power. It was not their choice to become Clotho. And if I hurt them, I may be going against my nature by harming someone with a bond of Fae with Force Primeval. It's against my nature and could make me vulnerable.
See, where's the best place for us to search then for a spirit to bond so you don't have to do it yourself?
She kind of thinks and says, I don't know. I know where one was, but your world, your map is so different than mine. I imagine it's not there anymore. But maybe maybe if you were close, you could get signs, but it would be a dangerous way to go. I only know of one spirit that is kindred to mine that would be strong enough to withstand my connection, and it's not a very easy to interact with spirit.
Who is it?
Narsenhar, my grandmother's pet. It would be the one that could work.
Zendhar.
1 second. I need to make a check. Oh, actually, that's not bad. So, Sil, you know a little bit about the elven word. You think it
Okay.
came from the name and not the other way around.
Okay.
I don't think anyone else speaks Elven, right? I think it's just Sil.
Okay. So I'll explain that Narsenhar means extinction or close to
Means what?
extinction.
Oh. Yeah, nothing out of this person's mouth has been particularly flowery.
So she thinks about it and says, it's not a great translation, but I imagine stories and tales of Narsanjar would be about those sorts of things. It tends to bring an ending of peoples and cultures.
Well, I don't know where to find them, so I am out of questions.
I know where it was, but I don't know if it's there any longer, and if it is somewhere, if it connects with, well, usually air, but it could be other substances, sometimes ground, depending on the creature's mood. It destroys, it reduces back to basic pieces, and creates much life. The fire that then creates fertile ground. That is its purpose.
The necessary destruction, not extinction.
Destruction that leads to more life, yes.
Yes.
Um. One. What? Or I guess Kylie. Is the ghostly conversation kind of sounds like that?
Yeah. Well, so in the ghostly conversation, one of the voices is saying, like, bring me into this world. And is like, has like a lot of heat. And then the other one is just like calling the two other people, or perhaps just me, a bunch of names. Like Terror of Bindings, Harbinger of Beginnings, Welcomer of End, Knower of Threes. So I'm not totally sure which is which. They both kind of seem bad. I think Grandmother is a little terrifying, uh, as is the adversary.
If you say that, she'll nod grandmother is terrifying sometimes.
Um, yeah.
So, Syl, if you're going with the idea of saying yes, that you'd be willing to be a Knight of Summer, she would say, your stain is connected with summer. It would mean that one of us would be much less likely, I say that to say that it is not impossible, to have a bond placed upon you. But knowing and feeling and seeing the circumstances, a bond like this that was made more open ended could be relinquished, and it would remove the bond from you and the stain of the broken bond before. A temporary bond would veil the stain, but not the other. Foxy, the idea is that this session would be basically as long as my voice held out, which is not great at the moment, but so if you guys need this to be a shorter session, we can end soonish.
I'm okay with ending soonish if your voice is not doing well.
Yeah, let's not overtax you.
It's holding out. Honestly, it's holding out much better than I expected. I thought I was going to have to be typing most of this. But we didn't really talk. We had talked previously about this being a shorter session, so I don't know if Foxy needed to go. But I know Foxy also had like a horrible night's sleep, and there's chaos in my house as well, so I don't mind ending early. I would like to get to an end point if we do end.
Yeah, I don't want to like
All I can think right now, Gary, is little T's second. Like when you ask like the Spectre what T's name is, it's chaos.
yeah, I don't want to like cut the session short if it was intended to be a longer one. I'm just I did have a pretty terrible night's sleeps, and I'm tired enough that I'm having trouble following stuff, but that's kind of what the recording is for. So I'm not bothered if we continue. I just like wanting to know roughly what the go was.
I think if we get to the point at which you guys leave this sort of inside area, that would be what would be a good end point for me as like the storyteller person. Which could be fairly soon if people kind of done talking, because this is meant to be a little open. And the other thing is that in the interest of people enjoying the game, I could just say, all right, well, if you guys had further questions, you guys can shoot me questions throughout the week in Prosperity, like in the chat, and keep asking her questions that we could have answered now, where I can type and not have to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I like that idea quite a bit because I feel like there are the notes that I want to consult and go back to parts of this conversation that we've had to ask some questions.
Yeah, which is
Me
fine.
personally.
Yeah, probably same.
And when I said earlier, like before the session, I was like, you're going to get to something that allows you to really open up the world a little bit. Part of the thing with that is that some of the questions and some of the explanations you guys got are radically different than what you've been told in the past.
Hmm.
And so that opens up completely different cans of worms. And you have someone who's very knowledgeable about some things and not knowledgeable at all about some other things. But the thing that she's knowledgeable about, she is willing to share with you and has pretty good information. So, if you guys spending a lot of time talking with her makes sense. But also, I do want to get to a narrative sort of next step. So let's say that for now, unless people have something that like is a dying question they want to ask right this moment, that we're going to assume you guys kept asking questions, and let's kind of transition to, if you do want to take the mantle of Summer Night, because I know it sounds like Syl does, let's resolve that and then have you guys leave the interior and kind of have that be the end of session.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm definitely for at least one of us taking a binding, right? Just to stay in contact. If that's one of us or multiple, that's something I think is definitely good.
If having this binding will cleanse my stain as well, then I think that it's a good idea for me.
Exactly.
So her
Only if you do it permanently.
so her explanation is
Oh.
a short-term binding will mask it, will hide the stain. But as soon as the binding ends, it'll be back again. A more permanent binding will get it to go away completely. And if you bind yourself and then, complete a task, right? I will be bound until something happens. Then once you complete the binding, then the binding and the stain will go away. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think. So if I do something and then the terms of the contract are met, is it still permanent? Sorry.
So if you become a permanent member of the court,
hmm
and your entrance into becoming a member of the court is you need to do something. Basically, you're earning entrance into the court. Once that thing happens, then you're no longer bound and the stain goes away. So you're still a member of the court, but you're not a knight of summer. So you're
Ah,
you're no longer, so the knight is sort of the lowest ranking nobility. So you're temporarily a noble, and then once you complete whatever the task was, whatever you're assigned to do, you're no longer a noble anymore, but you're still a member of the court, kind of in good standing. Does that make
oh,
sense?
okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. Sorry about that.
That's fine. It's a confusing thing, and I have when you guys asked her, "Hey, what are the rules here? Like, what are the accords?" and she said, "I need time to be able to write them all out." What she means is that she innately knows them all, but she doesn't really know how to explain them very well because they're part of her being. But she can sit down and write them all out, and then I can give them to you guys and say, "Here's what the rules are." So
Okay.
I'm going to do that over the next little bit.
Okay. Maybe I will wait to make the choice until I see all the rules.
That is a reasonable assumption to me. I will say that the general thing of the rules is basically the core elements are you do not lie when it's in service of your court. So you can lie to people about all kinds of things, but if you're acting as a summer representative, you can't lie. And then the second thing is that you do not disrespect people that have given you host right, and you do not violate guest right. So you basically follow the rules of civility. If you guys look back at the vampire rules, you'll see that there's a whole lot of overlap between the rules that I'm going to give you and the vampire rules. They're not one to one, but quite a bit. So basically, don't lie when you're acting in Summer's interest. Don't do things that hurt Summer directly. Don't attack a host or be a bad guest, and then respect neutral territory. Those are the four core elements of the rules.
Okay.
And then the rules are mostly explaining what it means to be a host, what it means to be a guest, what it means to have neutral territory, what it means to be acting in the interest of Summer. So there's sort of explanations of those things.
Okay. Hmm. Yeah, I think I will decide later.
Okay. So let's do a conditional yes, and the assumption is if you give you the rules, which your character could have been given in this time, and you the player get to review them, that we can kind of make the decision there. But as far as that part of it's been wrapped up, cool. Griffel, do you want to wait until you're more conscious to make decisions, or you have a idea of?
So yes, before I finalize, but I'm fairly certain that the answer is going to be no. Griffel's very keen on not overcommitting to like a bunch of supernatural beings. as, as she's seeing the fallout that can sometimes create and the consequences for this party.
Sounds fair. Morin.
I'm leaning towards no, not taking this Night of Summer pact.
Okay. Druck.
I'm super on the fence. My theory was at least one of us, so it sounds like Phil might. Sorry.
That's right.
And I may or may not undecided, super undecided. I don't want to split the party ever, but it sounds like it could be cool to also do it. So
Okay. Phil.
No.
Okay. And then one.
Um, mm, I don't know. I think I'm leaning yes, but I'm gonna think about it a little bit more.
so
Can
3 and
I
3.
can I put a statement writer on that I will tell her?
Sure.
Yeah.
As mortals, words carry more weight than they seem to with those who are not mortals, and I think I want you to at least trust that I will be acting in your service even without a binding.
She kind of switches and says, I treat you guys here as friends. You've done me favor, and I'm in some way indebted to you, a debt that will be repaid, in here or outside. This is not binding you to force you into my interests for my own self needs. It's the only way I can offer you power. Once I am able to act more freely in the world, either by subsuming this child or connecting with something else, then it will be a different situation.
Well, I will await that day.
All right, so it sounds like Syl needs to look at the rules and see if he likes it. Drak is kind of on the fence where it looks like likely it's going to be a. Sounds like if nobody else does it, he is going to do it. And then if somebody else does it, then he has to make a decision. And then one, your answer is probably yes. Is there something that gets you to a more strong yes or no? Like
I mean, yeah, I think that she just wants power to fight against the adversary. Like she's, out of everybody had like the closest brush with it, having her mind assaulted, and I think she's like ready to champion this cause. I do think like maybe she would make the pact conditional that like she will be a Knight of Summer until the adversary is defeated.
sounds reasonable. So I'm going to make the assumption, and I'm going to give the description of the knighting ceremony, assuming that someone makes the choice. But
Yeah, like you said, if no one else does, I absolutely will. If it's gonna be like half and half, I'll probably just do it just so it is a true half and half. I think that's maybe a good idea anyway. So, like one said, the side we're fighting for seems to be the same, and if it gives her power and us potentially power, I don't see that as a bad thing. So I'm more leaning to yes than no.
so, those of you guys that do say you want to take the power, she will ask you plainly, and say, "We are now speaking now as my position to mortals, not as friends to one another. If you give me your name, freely spoken from your own lips, it would be as service, as Knights of Summer. Do you do so?" And for those of you guys that do, you say your names, and she does. So you kneel before her, and then she draws the blade from the throne, and it is this glowing, brilliant, like sun that she's holding in her hand. And she takes it over to you, rested on your shoulder, and if those people being knighted, that blade is like incredibly hot. It's like someone put a forge right next to you, and it's very uncomfortable. And then when she says your name, that heat fades immediately into being a more comforting warmth, like gathering around the fire at home in winter, rather than being this like searing hot poker touching your shoulder. So she says your names 3 times and then says, Rise, Night of Summer. It's a very bare bones, simplistic ceremony, but each piece of what she says and what she does seems to carry with it this very powerful sort of gravitas with it. And then once I kind of get the final answer to people, I kind of explain what it means to be a Knight of Summer and kind of mechanically and storyline wise, she'll give you a little primer. So once that's done, she will basically kind of end the conversation. And then say, You are free to return. I know that you are connected to me as if I were a Lairk, and you are needing my permission to return to the world. I give it. I give it. I give it. And then you guys fade away and find yourselves back in the room, back in Three Trees.
At this point, do we know how to actually communicate with her now that we're back out? Because that's something I would definitely ask prior to leaving.
Yes. So whoever comes at night will get the little primer, which will explain to them how to communicate.
Okay,
I
perfect.
want to give it. She's going to say it in a way that literally only the people who are knights can hear it. So I want to give it just to those players.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Flashes, right? So, you make it back out into Three Trees, and when you open your eyes, you see the shaman immediately sort of slump against the wall. Doesn't look injured, just looks exhausted. And when you see her kind of chest rising slowly and falling, you can tell that she's fallen into a deep sleep. That was probably very exhausting for her because you guys were down there for quite some time.
Yeah, I was going to ask anyone in the room how much time has passed since we went in.
So there's a lot of people in the room, and you can see put onto not necessarily a stretcher, but rather kind of like they've turned the bed into a makeshift stretcher is the mother. So Lady Stonetree. And there are several people kind of gathered around. A couple of them are Goliath that are kind of ready to cart her out of the room. Notably, the Wraith isn't in the room anymore. And there's a little bit of light coming in from the window. And as you guys start awake and stuff, your bodies take a second to sort of readjust as you realize that your physical bodies stayed here. The only thing that went inside was some sort of projection of who you were. And takes kind of a few minutes of sort of shaking the cobwebs out of your head and body for you to really wake up like you've been in a coma for a little while and your body doesn't react well when you first wake up. But as soon as you do wake up, you see one of the servants leave the room, comes back in with Hatterai, and Hatterai kind of kneels down. Oh, thank the gods you are all right, and the spirits and whatever else. I'm not being picky. Just we were worried that whatever was happening out here was part of whatever that is. Do you know? Is the Lairk subsided? What do we need to do now?
Well, we can find an Odlier to bind her.
Okay. And did you feel things get very weird down there? Because it's been very weird out here. There's been growth everywhere. I guess. Look, he kind of hauls one onto her feet. You kind of stumble a little bit because your legs are partially asleep. He takes you to that big window that Lord Stonetree was looking at, the one that you guys opened up to speak with Ishiashaya. And he points out into the town, and you see just massive trees growing up. Like there were trees before, but it's like the trees in the town have doubled in size, and there are carpets of flowers and vines and fruits and everything. The entire town, from where you can see, is just completely overgrown with life.
You might have to rename the town now.
More than 3 trees.
So it takes you a second to realize, like when like you guys are looking outside, that in the distance that you can see like trees and stuff, it's actually still dark, so it's still nighttime. But the area around you all is very bright. And looking outside, there's maybe 40 or 50 people that are out of their houses looking at things. And about half of them are picking through like these huge vines with like fruits and things on them that they're kind of staring at them. One of them holds up an eggplant that's like 2.5 feet long and looks like it might be 30 or 40 pounds. And it's just sort of like gesturing to somebody else with it, like, do you see this? Like, what the hell? About half the people are doing that, messing with the fruit and vegetables and things that are on the ground. The other half are staring either at the Lord's house or above the Lord's house. And you can tell that that light that is shining around isn't
Oh,
from the sun. It's from the ring around your ship.
Oh,
Bodhi's
right.
here.
Right.
Didn't we summon it?
Yep. As a just in case.
That's hilarious.
Well, at least it's not the only strange thing to happen here. Perhaps it will pass without fewer comments because of that.
Yeah, sure.
It's not causing the growth, right?
No,
No.
doubtful.
I mean, we know that.
I wonder if they do. How is the child?
Asleep and sleeping soundly.
Nice.
It's also no longer discolored. Looks kind of like a newborn. I mean, it's still slightly discolored because it's a newborn, but it looks more healthy.
All right, so I'll ask the party in the like private Scion chat stuff. How much do we tell them about Clotho being in the child and still needing a binding? Otherwise, Clotho will just kind of overpower the child too soon.
I think that we don't mention Clotho. I think we tell them we've spoken with the spirit and they've given us a lead on a Odlir, and we're going to take care of it.
Okay.
Because we don't know where the adversary has agents. It could be anywhere.
Well, but the adversary already knew about the child. I'm less worried about that. Dalash was already in there, right?
Well, Dalish was in there, or Dalseth was in there with Clotho, but I don't know that he knew which child he was in.
Ah, good point. Okay. Yeah. Good call. Good call. So in theory, the next step would still be to take the child to the ship and take the ship to somewhere for this other binding, right?
I think we need to track down the Nasenhar.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to do some research is our next thing.
Yeah.
If you did want to do that, would that have been a question that you, because like she said she knew where it was, would you guys have
Oh,
asked?
she did? Yes, for sure.
Because like basically what she said is, I can tell that there's been an enormous amount of time between the time that I know and now. So I don't know if it's still there, but I can tell you where it was in my time, and that might give you a start point. That's what
Oh,
she
yes.
initially
Yes,
said.
please.
Yes, please.
So going back to that, she will say that the great reservoir of Gavich Nayad was where the creature was, at the gate to the Fae, and she would point it on the map. And she points to Lake Obai.
Perfect. That's so
Ah,
convenient.
Was that lake there before?
She says, it was the reservoir for their civilization. It wasn't called a lake back then, but it was there.
So man-made.
Giant made.
And does anything lie underneath the water?
The gate to the Fae. A natural portal to the wilds.
Oh, well, how about that?
Guess we're diving deep, boys
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
girls.
Do we need a natural portal, or can we just like pop over there with the ship?
Mm,
How big is the portal? Can yeah, how big is the portal?
Jesus, the surface of the portal waxes and wanes. I would need to know the seasons better to be able to truly understand. And not your seasons. The seasons in the Shadelands don't always mirror those in the Dawnlands.
So I'm also gonna have a bunch of questions I think about Leviathan, but I can save that for the Discord.
So yeah, there's a bunch of scrambling. There's a bunch of people. You can tell that some of the people that are kind of coming up to the house with lots of questions that are pointing and staring are being fended off. It's not right the right word. The questions are being fielded by Lord Stonetree. And we'll sort of begin next session with conclusion of the conversation, which will happen on Discord stuff, and then the exiting from Three Trees.
That sounds good.
Nice.
All right.
My tiny brain.
I know this session
know.
was supposed to like clear everything up, make things understandable.
I never expected that. Never ever.
More of a hope, I guess, for me. We were supposed to ask questions, figure out the world, figure out what's going on. I'm just more confused. Because now there's the summer court, there's the winter court. Is summer good? Is winter good? I know the adversary's bad. That's about the only thing I know for sure.
Yeah.
And you know that for sure.
I think so. I think I know that for sure.
That seems to be true.
All right, well, you guys can stay and talk and stuff, but I'm gonna stop talking.
Yeah, no,
All
thank
right.
you so much, Gary. That was good.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hopefully,
Thanks, Gary.
hopefully you'll get better in the next couple of
Thank you,
weeks.
Gary.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna go on vacation. Come back, see how my voice works.
Yeah, sounds good.
Later.
I would just like
All
to say, Kylie.
Yeah.
What's her name never said you will free me 3 times. She said just
She said like
thrice
thrice
freed.
thrice
Thrice
freed.
freed.
Okay.
It could be 3 different people.
That's
Mm.
true. I guess that is what's happening.
Also, Maiden Mother Crone.
Yep. Totally.
Also, Clotho Lycasis and Atropo.
What is
Oh, I was
that?
thinking
The 3
Oh,
fates.
nice.
The Republic
I was
cast in on the bridge.
I was thinking
Of
Clotho like
Lycasis.
Clothis, the Magic the Gathering god.
That too. All right, guys. I'm
Yeah,
out. This
that was a
super
lot of
fun.
fun. Take care, guys.
Thanks so much.
See you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.
See you soon.